Welcome to TEA's ethics training. This training fulfills a mandatory training requirement as a state employee. This training is also designed to make you aware of ethics laws, policies, and guidelines that apply to you as an employee. And after watching this presentation, you determine that you need additional information on this subject. Please feel free to consult the agency's operating procedures or contact the TEA's ethics advisor in the Office of General Counsel. So what is ethics? According to Merriam-Webster, ethics is defined as rules of behavior based on ideas about what is morally good and bad. Oxford expands on that and defines ethics as moral principles that governs a person's or group's behavior. A more detailed description is found at businessdictionary.com, where it defines ethics as the basic concepts and fundamental principles of decent human conduct. It includes the study of universal values, such as the essential equality of all men and women, human or natural rights, obedience to the law of the land, concern for health and safety, and increasingly, also for the natural environment. The ethics of an organization represents the collective values and conduct of each person at every level, from entry level to senior management. So why do ethics matter? Well, employees in high-integrity cultures are 1/3 more likely to report misconduct. In cultures where employees freely speak up to senior leaders, improve employee productivity. And lastly, managers exhibiting corporate values can improve employees' performance by 12%. TEA's mission and responsibility says that TEA will improve outcomes for all public school students in the state by providing leadership and guidance and support to school systems. In service of this mission, we will aspire to the highest standard of ethical conduct and avoid even the appearance of impropriety. Ethics are so important that even when hiring, remember, no matter how talented someone is, if they lack a strong ethical compass, you don't want them in your organization. We're public servants entrusted with the public's resources and trust. So we have our principles of public service to help guide our conduct as TEA employees. And the 6 pillars of character that supports these principles are trustworthiness, responsibility, respect, caring, citizenship, and fairness. The first pillar is trustworthiness. This includes honesty, integrity, reliability, and loyalty. It takes years to build, seconds to break, and forever to repair. The second pillar is responsibility. It includes accountability, diligence, and restraint, and expecting individuals to make ethical choices within unethical systems and situations is not only unrealistic, but it's unfair. The third pillar is respect. Treat others with respect and others will respect you. Respect includes civility, courtesy, decency, and dignity. The late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Intelligence plus character. That is the goal of true education." The fourth pillar is caring. If you existed alone in a universe, there would be no need for ethics and your heart could be a cold, hard stone. Caring is the heart of ethics and ethical decision making. It is scarcely possible to be truly ethical and yet unconcerned with the welfare of others. That is because ethics is ultimately about good relations with other people. And the Josephson Institute says this: people who consider themselves ethical and yet lack a caring attitude toward individuals tend to treat others as instruments of their will. Our fifth pillar of character is citizenship. It's a commitment to community and public service. Albert Einstein once said that only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile. Our sixth and final pillar of character is fairness. It includes balance, equality, impartiality, and equity. Fairness is not an attitude. It's actually a professional skill that must be developed and exercised, says Britt Hume. Now, as a state employee, specifically, you may not accept or solicit any gift, favor, or service that might reasonably tend to influence your official conduct. And you may not accept other employment or engage in a business or professional activity that might reasonably expect would require or induce you to disclose confidential information. A state agency may not use funds to compensate a state employee who violates these standards. As a state employee, you may not accept other employment or compensation that could impair your independence of judgment in the performance of official duties. You may not make personal investments that could create a substantial conflict of interest, or solicit, accept, or agree to accept any benefit for doing your official duties. Remember that a state agency may not use funds to compensate a state employee who violates these standards. Conflicts of interest, as outlined in Operating Procedures 0704, Agency Standards of Conduct and Conflicts of Interest. A conflict of interest exists when one has a business, personal, professional, or other relationships that could reasonably be expected to influence your judgment in the performance of your TEA duties. Now, typically, there needs to be something more than normal work interactions between individuals to create a conflict of interest. Examples listed in OP include investigating a complaint in a school district where your best friend is on the board, or accepting a gift from a contact person of a school you regulate. Now, when a TA employee identifies a potential conflict of interest, they shall within 1 week report it to their immediate supervisor and to the TEA ethics advisor. In these cases, you should review OPO 704, then complete the potential conflict of interest form to have it reviewed. Know that additional steps may be required by those working in contracts and procurement roles. Any outside supplemental work might present a conflict of interest and should be reviewed by the TEA ethics advisor. In these cases, you should contact the TEA's ethics advisor to find out if a written disclosure needs to be made. Accepting gifts or benefits. No employee shall solicit, accept, or agree to accept an honorarium or remuneration for services based on their official position or duties at TEA. Now, you should review OPO 708 for exceptions related to transportation and lodging and meals in connection with a conference or similar event in which the employee renders services, such as addressing an audience or engaging in a similar to the extent that those services were merely perfunctory. Now, there are some absolute prohibitions. No employee shall accept or solicit any gift, favor, or service that is being offered with the intent to influence or that will influence your conduct as a TEA employee. Gifts you may accept. If the absolute prohibitions does not apply, there are gifts that you may accept. Now, here's some gifts you may accept. A. Employees who attend conferences may accept food, drinks, and gifts provided to all attendees, if such may be accepted under the exceptions of the Texas Penal Code Section 36.10. The conference is open to other non-TA employees, and at least 50% of the conference participants are not TEA employees and employees of vendors who do business with TEA. B. Employees may accept coffee, tea, soda, and water and similar drinks and light snacks such as cookies, fruit, bagels, chips, popcorns, and other similar items if the giver of the gift is present. Meals may not be accepted under subsection B. Now, there are some additional restrictions based on your role. While the items I've previously described are allowed for all TA employees, there are additional restrictions on gifts, favors, and services if you work in these roles or functions. Financial Administration Division, Grants Administration Division, Federal Fiscal Monitoring Division, Federal Fiscal Compliance and Reporting Division, and Purchasing and Contracts Division. Now, here's some restrictions when working with contracts or grants. If you're required to fill out a non-disclosure form for a contract or a similar form for a grant, the employee cannot accept a gift from the entity or from the employees or agents of the entity except in the following circumstances. Now, these are the same that are allowed for all employees that we listed earlier. A. Employees who attend conferences may accept food, drinks, and gifts provided to all attendees, if such may be accepted under the exception of the Texas Penal Code Section 36.10. The conference is open to other non-TA employees, and at least 50% of the conference participants are not TA employees and employees of vendors who do business with TEA. And B. Employees may accept coffee, tea, soda, and water and similar drinks and light snacks such as cookies, fruits, bagels, chips, popcorns, and other similar items if the giver of the gift is present. Meals may not be accepted under subsection B. For employees outside of those restrictions I just mentioned, for the rest of the agency's employees who do not work in those previously identified divisions or with contracts and grants, you can accept benefits as generally allowed under Texas law. In particular, gifts worth $50 may be accepted. However, you cannot accept cash, checks, or gift cards. There are other gifts that are allowed. If you want to know whether a gift worth more than $50 is allowed, please contact the TEA Ethics Advisor or the Texas Ethics Commission. And remember, you cannot accept anything that might influence you. Personal investments. No employee shall make personal investments which would reasonably be expected to create a substantial conflict between the individual's private interests and the public interests. For more on this, you can review OP 0704. Permanent school fund employees will also participate in their unit's individualized PSF ethics training and follow explicit guidelines for avoiding conflicts of interest related to their position with TEA. Confidential information. No employee shall disclose or use information that has not been made public to benefit, aid another, or for the intent to defraud another. It does not matter that you personally receive no monetary benefit, as long as someone receives the benefit. Giving out confidential information that has no monetary impact to anyone can also be illegal. Now, when considering your actions, if in doubt, ask yourself 3 questions. Transparency. Would I mind if others knew about my behavior? Effect. Who does my behavior affect or hurt? Fairness. Would my behavior be considered fair by all those affected? Being ethical means being open, transparent, and fair. Rationalization may indicate an unethical behavior. This is the fraud triangle. It has 3 dimensions: opportunity, rationalization, and pressure. All TA employees are expected to report any potentially fraudulent or dishonest activities under OP 0204. Now, the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners says this: fraud is a silent crime and there are no exciting chase scenes, no smoking guns, and no bleeding victims. But fraud is a crime nonetheless. And worldwide, fraud in all of its forms costs billions of dollars in damage. Fraud at its core involves taking something from someone else through deception or concealment. So how does fraud relate to ethics? Fraud includes any irregularity or illegal act characterized by intentional deception, a wrongful act or a series of acts committed through concealment, false impression, or a violation of trust, maybe to obtain money, property, or services to avoid payment or to secure benefit or business advantage. All employees are expected to report any potentially fraudulent or dishonest activities as directed in OP 0204 to ensure prompt and coordinated investigation of the reported violations. Texas's revolving door policy. This ethics-related policy applies to employees who leave the agency and accept future employment. It's designed to limit potential conflicts of interest and ethics concerns. More specific details are contained in Chapter 572 of the Texas Government Code. Now, for employees who participated on behalf of the agency in a procurement or contract negotiation with others, you may not accept employment from others involved for 2 years after the contract is signed or the procurement is terminated or withdrawn. For all employees paid at or above the amount prescribed to A17 job classifications, that's $36,000 a year or more, you may not accept compensation to work on particular matters which you worked on as a state employee, and additional restrictions apply to the Commissioner of Education. Who should I contact if I have additional questions? You may contact Chris Maska, TEA's Ethics Advisor in the Office of General Counsel. His phone number is 512-463-9720, or Human Resources, 512-463-8200, or email them at hr@tea.texas.gov. Congratulations! You have completed the agency's ethics training. Access the Certificate of Ethics Training Completion and submit it for credit on your training transcript. You may contact D. Lewis in HR Talent Development if you need any assistance or guidance.